Some rides only go up or down, but these ones go somewhere else. Welcome to Spookify. Tonight, we're stepping inside 5 elevators you should have never taken. Story number 1, Mirror Elevator. They warned us about the elevator. Take the stairs if you can, they said. It's old, glitchy, gets stuck sometimes. But I lived on the 17th floor. I wasn't climbing that every day. At first, it was just weird delays. The doors would close, then reopen. Sometimes it stopped at random floors with no one waiting. Other times it would shake, like something tugged the cables from below. But what really got to me were the mirrors. All 4 walls of the elevator were mirrored, floor to ceiling. You couldn't look anywhere without seeing yourself from 5 different angles. That's when I started noticing it. The handprints, smudges on the mirror. Not mine. Not positioned like someone pressed them to steady themselves. They were higher, or sideways, or tiny. Like a kid had been in there climbing the walls. But the dorm didn't allow kids. And then, my reflection started doing things I wasn't. It started small, like a lag. I'd tilt my head, and the reflection would pause for a split second before catching up. But then I smiled once. Just a polite fake smile to someone outside the elevator. And my reflection didn't stop. It kept smiling. Wide, stretched, way too long. I started filming every ride after that. I posted one to my story. Nothing happened in the video. Looked totally normal. But that wasn't what I saw. Not live. One night, around 11 p.m., I filmed another ride. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't talking. But in the mirror, my reflection leaned close and whispered something. When I slowed the footage down, I could just barely read her lips. Don't trust the one that leaves. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I told my friend Maddie. She lived on 12, and she'd noticed weird stuff too. She agreed to ride with me. We took the elevator from the lobby, both filming on our phones. Nothing happened at first, but when we watched it back, in the reflection, Maddie's reflection stepped out on 12. Only, Maddie didn't. In real life, she was still beside me. But in the video, her reflection was already gone, just standing in the hallway, staring at me as the doors closed. I thought it was just a glitch, until the next morning. Maddie never showed up to class, or answered her phone. Her dorm room was locked, lights off, completely untouched. She was just gone, like she'd stepped out and never come back. I should have stopped using the elevator, I really should have. But that night, I took it again, alone. My heart was racing the entire way up, and when I stepped out on 17, my reflection didn't. It stayed, just standing there, watching, with that same fake smile, lips barely moving, and I swear I heard her whisper, "Your turn." Now, every time I ride the elevator, she's already there, waiting in the mirror. Sometimes she matches me, sometimes she doesn't, but I know what happens next. Eventually, I'll be the one that doesn't leave. Story number 2, Sub-Level 6. You can't imagine how excited I was to land this internship. A high-clearance government facility, tucked behind tall steel gates, with badge access elevators, and silent, suited employees who all moved like ghosts. It wasn't glamorous, lots of filing, lots of sitting, but it felt important, like I was part of something bigger. The building was cold, both in temperature and personality. Nobody talked unless they had to. The walls were gray. The light buzzed. You get used to it. On my second week, I stayed late. Real late. Everyone else had gone home, and I was cleaning up reports, rushing to catch the last elevator before the system shut down for the night. But this elevator, it looked different. Older. It had a worn brass panel with a few extra buttons, including one labeled Sub 6. I'd never noticed it before. Out of instinct, or maybe curiosity, I pressed it. The elevator hummed, then began to descend, past Sub 1, past Sub 3, past all known levels. It creaked and groaned like it hadn't been used in years. Then it stopped, with a loud, echoing ding. The doors opened, and I stepped into something that didn't feel right. A long, dark corridor stretched out in front of me. Flickering fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting slow-moving shadows along broken tile floors. The air smelled like mildew and metal. The walls were cracked, flaking. There was no sound, except a deep humming. Constant, like something buried beneath the concrete was alive. I should have gone back, but I didn't. Room after room branched off the corridor, all of them unlocked but eerily empty. Desks flipped over, drawers open, as if someone had left in a hurry and never came back. Then I found the room. One small office, door halfway open. On it was a metal plaque, with my full name. First, middle, last. Spelled exactly right. I'd never been down there before. No one should have known me well enough to make something like that. I went inside. The room was spotless, empty, except for a single monitor, glowing blue. It played security footage, looping endlessly. Footage of me, sitting at my desk, walking down hallways, taking the elevator. Sometimes the angles didn't make sense, like they were shot from corners that shouldn't exist. I watched one where I was sleeping, at home. I ran, back to the elevator, slammed the button for the main level. When the doors opened, it was morning. The building was active again, people moving about like normal. I exhaled, trying to laugh it off. Maybe I was just overtired, dreaming, hallucinating, but something was wrong. When I got back to my floor, my desk was empty. My nameplate, gone. I tried logging into my computer. Access denied. I asked a coworker what was going on. She blinked at me. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" I laughed, nervous. "It's me, the intern. I sit right over there." She looked genuinely confused. "We don't have an intern, not this quarter." I went to HR. They didn't have my name on record. I pulled out my badge. The photo was gone. Just a blank white rectangle. No ID number. Nothing. I ran back to my apartment. Everything looked the same, but even my key didn't work. I stood in the hallway for hours, hoping something would make sense. Nothing did. Now I stay in cheap motels, changing towns every few days. But no matter where I go, I find slips of paper in my pockets, my bags, my shoes. Each one says the same thing. You went to Sub 6. You were never meant to leave. Story number 3. The maintenance man said, "Don't ride alone." I moved into that crumbling old building because rent was cheap. Too cheap. The kind of place where the paint peels in long strips, the hallways smell like wet concrete, and the elevator shudders every time the doors close. I met the elevator technician on my second day. Old guy. Wore a navy jumpsuit with the building's logo stitched in a crooked thread. Looked like he'd worked there since the walls were first poured. Didn't say much, just nodded at me and kept fiddling with the wiring. But as I was about to step into the elevator, he grabbed my arm. Not hard, but firm. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't ride it alone after midnight." That's all. No explanation, no smile. Just turned and walked away like he hadn't just dropped a horror movie line in real life. I laughed it off, of course. People in buildings like that always had their superstitions. Old wiring, strange noises. Maybe the guy had just seen one too many creepy shifts and wanted to mess with the new tenant. But then, things got weird. The elevator skipped floors sometimes, not in a glitchy way, more like it chose to skip them. Once I watched it go from 4 to 6, then back to 3. It made no sense. Other times I'd hear music playing from the speakers, even though the speaker grill was clearly rusted out and completely disconnected. One night it was a child humming. Another time, an old jazz tune, slowed down and warbled like it was underwater. Worst was the breathing. It started on the 4th night. I'd ride up alone, dead silent, and I'd feel it. Hot, heavy breath on the back of my neck, like someone standing just behind me. But when I turned around, nothing. Just me and my reflection in the warped mirror. Then a tenant on the 5th floor disappeared. The landlord chalked it up to unpaid rent and a midnight move-out, but her groceries were still in the fridge. I know. I helped the super clean out the apartment. People whispered about her riding alone, how the elevator went up, but never came back down. Still, I never thought it'd be me. But one night, after a brutal double shift, I lost track of time. I dragged myself into the building, bleary-eyed and numb, and hit the elevator button without thinking. It was 12:04 a.m. The second the doors closed, the lights flickered. The hum of the motor sounded off, deeper, slower, like it was pulling something heavy. On the third floor, it stopped. I didn't press anything. The doors opened, and someone stepped in. I froze. It was my brother. But my brother had died 2 years ago. He didn't say anything, just smiled and stood beside me, staring ahead. His eyes looked glassy, like he wasn't all there, or wasn't supposed to be. I don't remember the rest of that ride, or getting to my floor. I woke up in my apartment, door locked, lights off. Everything felt normal, except it wasn't. The elevator, gone. Not broken, not out of order, gone. A blank wall where it used to be. And the technician? No one remembered him. No records, no name, no trace. I ran to the mirror to collect myself, and that's when I saw it. Over my shoulder. Someone else. Half hidden, blurred, smiling. Like they'd never really left the elevator. And now, they're always with me. Story number 4. The button with no label. I've never believed in the supernatural. Ghost stories? Just people with wild imaginations. That kind of stuff was never real. Not until last Tuesday night, when I worked late at the office. It was just after midnight. The entire building was silent, the kind of silence that hums in your ears. I had stayed back to finish a report I should have completed days ago. The glow of my monitor was the only light left on the floor. Eventually, exhausted and bleary-eyed, I packed up and headed toward the elevator. The hallway was darker than usual. I could have sworn the motion sensor lights weren't working right. But I was too tired to care. Then I saw it. On the elevator panel, beneath the usual numbered buttons, was another one. Small, unlabeled. Just a faint, pulsing glow, like it was breathing. I paused. That button definitely wasn't there yesterday, or the day before. I ride this elevator every day. I would have noticed. I reached out and hovered my finger over it. Probably a wiring error, I told myself. Or maybe some maintenance access, but something about it drew me in. I pressed it. The elevator shuddered slightly, then began to move. Down. Past the lobby, past the parking garage, past every floor I knew existed. The floor indicator went blank, then flickered. Strange symbols began cycling across the screen. Not letters, not numbers, just shapes. Ones I didn't recognize, but felt wrong somehow. The lights flickered. The air grew thick, like the walls were breathing. Then, with a jolt, the elevator stopped. Ding. The doors slid open. I stepped out into a vast, dark office floor. Dimly lit, endless rows of cubicles stretching far into the distance. The ceiling lights buzzed faintly, some flickering like they were about to die. Papers were scattered everywhere. Chairs overturned. Computers blinking static. It looked like the ghost of an office, abandoned and forgotten, but not empty. I took a step forward. That's when I heard it. Whispers. Not from a person. From everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the floor beneath my feet, whispering in a dozen voices, all saying the same thing. My name, over and over. Whispers turned to murmurs, murmurs into pleading, then laughter. I ran back toward the elevator, but it was gone. No doors, just blank, gray wall where they used to be. Panic hit me like a wave. I screamed. I hit the wall. I pressed every spot where the button should have been. Nothing. I wandered the cubicles for what felt like hours, but every corner I turned brought me right back to the same spot. It didn't make sense. The space was folding in on itself, looping. Eventually, the elevator returned, but something had changed. When I got back to the real world, or what I think is the real world, I tried to pretend it didn't happen, that I just imagined it all. A stress-induced hallucination, but that button, It's still there. Every elevator I enter, in my office, at the mall, at my apartment. No matter where I go, it's always glowing, quietly, waiting. I haven't pressed it again, not yet, but I think it's still watching me. Whatever it is. I'm not sure if the elevator took me down into the building or into myself. I used to think the building was haunted. Now I understand. I am. Story number 5, The Child in the Corner. I started working as a night security guard about a month ago. Nothing fancy, just a modern high-rise downtown. Cameras, badge access, quiet lobby, boring, easy paycheck. Or so I thought. Most nights were uneventful. I'd sip cheap coffee, watch YouTube, and cycle through the surveillance feeds every 20 minutes to pretend I was doing my job. That changed 2 weeks ago, when I noticed something strange on the elevator footage. It was exactly 3:12 a.m. when it happened. Camera 5, the elevator, glitched briefly. Just a few seconds of static. And then, there she was. A little girl, standing completely still in the back left corner of the elevator. Barefoot, wearing an old, stained white dress. Long, dark hair hiding her face. I thought someone's kid had wandered into the building. Strange, sure, but not impossible. But then the footage showed a tenant, Mr. Callahan from the 9th floor, stepping into the elevator with her. He pressed his floor. The doors closed. He never got out. The next morning, I checked the exit logs. Callahan never left the building. His car is still in the parking garage. Later that day, his office called, saying he never showed up. Cops were contacted. Nothing came of it. That night, I re-watched the footage over and over. And then I looked back through older tapes. It wasn't a one-time thing. Every single night at 3:12 a.m., she appeared. Always in the same spot, always still. And every time someone entered the elevator with her, they vanished. No trace, no exit footage, no record, just static. At first I thought I was losing it. Then I noticed something else. The timestamp always flickered during those moments. The seconds would jump forward or freeze completely. The lights inside the elevator would flicker, and sometimes the image distorted, just enough to make her face unreadable. I reported it to my supervisor. He brushed it off, said it was probably a software bug. I knew it wasn't. A few nights ago, at around 3:05 a.m., I heard the elevator ding, but no one had pressed it. It was moving, on its own, floor to floor. Then it stopped on 7th, and stayed there. I checked the feed. Camera 5 glitched again, just a brief flicker, but the doors were stuck halfway open. So I grabbed my flashlight and went to check it out. When I got to the 7th floor, the hallway was dead silent. The elevator doors were barely open, just a few inches. I could see the empty car inside. I pulled them open fully. No one was there. Just a single red crayon lying on the floor. I don't know why, but I stepped inside. The doors closed behind me. And then the panel lit up. But not like normal. The floor numbers vanished. The screen just showed one time, 3:12 a.m. I checked my watch, 3:11. I hit the emergency button. Nothing. Tried to open the doors, locked. Then, the lights flickered. I turned. She was there, behind me. Her face still hidden, body motionless. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I stared at the panel. 3:12 a.m. flashed once, and then everything went black. The building still runs like nothing ever happened. People come and go. But here's the thing. Every night, at 3:12 a.m. on the security feed, there's someone standing in the elevator. Not the girl. Me. Silent. Still. Staring into the camera. And the girl. She's gone. I think I took her place. And I don't know how much longer I'll be able to stay inside the screen. Doors closing. But the nightmare's not over. If you ever hear a floor ding that wasn't pressed, don't look up. This is Spookify. And you've just gone deeper.